Guess we should talk about SVB. So let's do it. Here's how Siliconvalley Collapsed in 48 hours.
Romans is here with us. Christine, okay, if you weren't paying attention on Friday afternoon, you were off work or on a trip, break down exactly what happened here with SVB.
Yeah, the anatomy of a collapse of a big bank and the anatomy of a rescue from the federal government. Let's look at how we got here. First of all, what is SVB? It is the epicenter of tech startups, venture capital, Silicon Valley Bank. It is the 16th largest bank, or it was, in the United States. And this is really the oxygen for technology. The technology sector really goes through SVB. So a very important bank here. By the end of 2022, it had $175 billion in total deposits. And here is the anatomy of the bank run, right? This is how much money it had at the end of the year. Just on Thursday, there were $42 billion in withdrawals from depositors, right? So something happened here where people wanted to take their money out.
Yeah, something happened here is basically Peter Thiel and others openly stating that this bank no longer had enough. This bank no longer had leverage, and once a couple people pull out and they can't actually pay, then a lot of other people are going to run and try to get their money out. Okay. I don't know what Peter Thiel's own personal interest was. Okay, I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he engineered this bank run. Like, it's very odd. Like, I don't know what he gets out of this. I don't know what he gains out of this, but like, he definitely did play a role in this. If you think that someone like Peter Thiel is going to go to jail, you're delusional. He runs this entire system. Like, he is a billionaire. This system is entirely designed for billionaires. The only time a billionaire would ever go to fucking jail, I guess, is if they like somehow fucked over other billionaires that are wealthier than he is in like a very significant way. Like, I can't even, it's like unimaginable, low key. Like, it's unimaginable to think about like how a multi-billionaire would actually ever go to fucking jail without like losing all of their money. You know what I mean? Like Sam Bankman-Fried, exactly. That's like great example. That's a great example. The only time a billionaire gets punishment is if he fucked over other billionaires. That's my point. Bernie Madoff, Sam Bankman-Fried, these are guys who fucked over other billionaires. Jeffrey Epstein basically ran out of use. You know what I mean? I think he did his like he did his like CIA blackmail operation, and then the government had no use for him, so they disposed of him. Elizabeth Holmes fucked over other shareholders, fucked over other billionaires. Like, these are all great examples of people who were billionaires who fucked over other billionaires. You can't do that.
Out, and this bank unraveled here. So what happened? Why did they get there? Well, this is a company that for years took deposits in the good times when interest rates were very low, and it grew and grew and grew. And those deposits grew, and it put that money into long-dated treasuries, into treasuries, safe, super safe treasuries, right? So this is how much they had. At the end of 2022, $128 billion worth of treasury. Look, that is amazing how much it gained. But then as things started to go south, when interest rates were rising, those were less valuable, and the company actually was selling those treasuries at a loss. When that word got out, people got nervous. The stock in the bank started to decline. Depositors started to withdraw their money. They were also withdrawing their money because technology, that sector, was in a downturn, right? And so instead of putting money into the bank, depositors were taking money out of the bank, and the bank could not sustain it. Come to the rescue, the United States government. The FDIC is going to insure up to $250,000 in normal times, and now you're going to have this facility so that above that level, everyone will be made whole. Not the bondholders and not the stockholders of the bank, we should point out, but the people who have their deposits in that bank. Also, Signature Bank.
Because remember, like, people that fucking put their money in that bank, they don't have they're not going, oh, please, like, invest the cash that you have. Please invest the cash that I gave you into some other shit. Like, they're not saying that. They might be capitalists themselves, but, like, remember, we all need banks. We all need fucking banks. We need banks, no matter what happens. You know what I mean? In the wild, wild west, we still had banks, okay? So the idea that, like, you could do without a bank is silly. And I say this as a motherfucker who doesn't even have a credit card, okay? And when you have a bank, you need to have that insured by the federal government. My parents are saying this and the other banks are going to trigger the next recession. Yeah. And you want to know what the other hilarious part about it is? Yes, most rich people bank with one institution usually because they get benefits from that, right? When you have a lot of money and you put it into one bank, especially if it's like a smaller bank too, that bank uses your money, so they give you benefits. They offer you loans, for example, or mortgages with a very low interest rate. Sometimes as low as like literally 0%. Now, I don't know how people are doing that, okay? But you get a personal banker, you get a lot of amenities. Now, if you're banking in an institution that is massive, the amount of number is like, it's always going to be above 250K, first and foremost. But the amount of number goes up for you to be like a high value client and have access to like immediate 24/7 wiring, shit like that, all these like idiotic amenities. You need like around, I think, $10 million for Bank of America. If you have like a couple mil, they still won't fucking do that either. Like they won't. They literally will be like, oh, you're above 250K. It doesn't matter. We're using your money, and you get no amenities, right? But once you get to like, I think the 10 million status, that's when you get like, that's when you get special privileges. Okay. But if you're at a regional bank, you put $1 million into one bank, you bank with one place, and you put a million into that bank, then that's it. I mean, this story is wonderful in so many ways because it's just like tech bro culture, Silicon Valley, rich people wanting to be fucking coddled, and then the big government stepping in and doing the right thing in this circumstance. It's just so good. It's just so great. It's awesome. It's such an important story.
This is the other shoe to drop this weekend. This is a bank that specializes in services for law firms. It also got into big trouble. The government will also back the depositors there. So a really important weekend of developments. You guys, this could have been a very different morning if we didn't have the Treasury and the Fed working all weekend to try to make sure that folks were made whole. And I'll say this is because interest rates rose so dramatically, something was going to break in the economy, right? And this is what broke, guys.
Yeah, and that comes as the Fed chair is only warning that interest rates are going to continue to rise. Christine Romans, we'll wait to see what the markets say when they open. Thank you.
With us now, CNN business correspondent Rahel Solomon and Wall Street Journal senior special writer Justin Baer. Good morning, Just. By the way,
I'm trying to find my old video from like around 2018, talking about the Dodd-Frank repeal, like the deregulation that came from the Trump era, because I specifically talked about a potential liquidity crisis within banks that was literally foreseen. It was foreseen. Everyone knew that it was going to happen. Like literally everyone knew it was going to happen. And then it happened. I have so many videos from back then where I was talking about this shit, getting fucking mad. Why the sudden this meltdown in bank stocks? A couple of interesting theories and charts doing the rounds. So let's take a look. The U.S. regional bank ETF is blowing up today. Oh my God. Okay. With one of the scary charts showing the large extent of unrealized losses in bonds sitting in books classified as held to maturity at U.S. banks at the end of 2022. What does this mean? Banks enjoy a very favorable accounting regime. Let's see how this works. Post-GFC, commercial banks were asked to keep a liquidity coverage ratio above 100%. This means, this is important, this is where the good shit starts. This means they always must have enough high-quality liquid assets to meet deposit outflows in a stress scenario. What that means is you can convert to cash, liquidity, right? You need fucking straight stacks, moolah, guapo, dollars, okay? Where you can immediately, in a situation where people go, hey, I want my money back, actually, please. I'm going to take my money and I'm going to take it somewhere else. The bank can go, oh, don't worry. I have it right here. Here you go, sir. Here's your dinero, okay? That's how that shit's supposed to work. But they dumped a shitload of their funds to long-term held-to-maturity bonds, right? But how were they able to do this? Because I thought in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis where the taxpayers were forced to fucking bail out the banks and not necessarily the people who actually were sold predatory loans and got fucked over, killed themselves, that sort of thing. We gave golden parachutes to the bankers, but then we said, hey, We're doing this, but you better not do this again. We're going to give you some rules, right? Well, it turns out Donald Trump allowed some of those rules to be rolled back in 2018. There was a lot of people who criticized this. They said, hey, don't do this. But they were like, well, what about the mom and pop banks? They're not competitive enough. You know what I mean? They're not some of the top. They're not some of the top banks. Please let these mom and pop shops also play around with people's money. They need a competitive edge. Now, why did that happen? Well, it happened because big banks will always benefit from that deregulation that small banks are benefiting from. This is a very good take. Exactly. One of the largest banks in the United States just collapsed because of the same 2008 risky gambling shit. And without even blinking, well, it wasn't even risky gambling. The risky gambling element of it was how much of the money that they held onto that they put into long-term bonds, right? They didn't have enough liquid cash in a situation. And they should have done that. The government should have had regulation. Now, without even blinking, the very same people who were melting down over your $600 unemployment check are now demanding that we bail them out. And this wasn't just Republicans that voted for this, mind you. I believe it was like more than 15, maybe 17 Democrats that also voted for this deregulation. Remember that. It wasn't just the Republicans. Democrats were on board with it too, because they are the same kind of vicious cocksucking demons that the Republicans are too. Okay? They are blood-sucking psychopaths, all working at the behest of capital. You understand? They are not on your side. They are not on the side of the fucking working class. And yes, they are the same fuckers who did complain about student loan debt relief. Anyway, this means they always must have enough high-quality liquid assets to meet deposit outflows in a stress scenario. This effectively means that banks around the world are forced to keep around 10 to 15% of the assets side of their balance sheet invested in high-quality liquid assets. And guess what qualifies for a high-quality liquid asset? Reserves at the Fed, and you guessed it, bonds. Effectively, banks were asked to own large amount of liquid assets and were told bonds were the only game in town due to regulation. Oh my God, they're saying this is like the regulation caused this problem. Who sent this link to me? Yeah, they over-regulated the banks. The banks should have actually, effectively, banks were asked to own a large amount of liquid assets and were told bonds were the only game in town due to regulation. What bonds? Mostly government bonds. But be aware, also corporate bonds and mortgage-backed securities can qualify. When regulators force you to own a ton of bonds, they also force you to swallow a lot of P&L volatility, and banks don't like that. That's why regulators allow bank treasuries to park bonds in two accounting-friendly books, available for sale and held to maturity. In both cases, if treasuries or corporate MBS bonds lose value, like at no point in this circumstance, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this because I don't understand the financial world, but like at no point of the circumstance are we even fucking like looking at the situation and going, how about not using the money? How about not putting all of the money back in? Like, I thought, at a certain point, banks are supposed to hold on to, like, big pockets of cash in their saves. Like, I don't know. That's a thing. But, hey, that's money wasted, right? Like, well, when you put your money into one bank and you are in a checkings account, not even in a savings account, you're wasting your money. The bank is not wasting your money. The bank is using your money to make more money for itself. But I do feel like maybe, I'm just saying, maybe like the bank shouldn't use some of the money. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But permanent growth dictates that the bank actually use all the money. You have to, or as much as you can do, as much as you can get away with using, as much as the regulatory agencies allow you to get away with. When you put money in the bank, they loan out 10x the amount. Your deposit counts as 10% in the reserves that they hold. Yes. In both cases, if treasuries and corporate MBS bonds lose value, the bank's P&L does not record the loss immediately. The unrealized gains and losses securities held in AFS hits the capital position of the bank, not its P&L. But the true banger, debt and equity securities not classified as either held to maturity securities or trading securities are classified as available for sale securities, reported fair value with unrealized gains and losses excluded from earnings and reported in a separate component of the shareholders' equity. The true banger is that bonds booked in held to maturity books are reported at amortized costs, or in other words, the unrealized losses, basically do not show up in the bank's financial statements. This creates an incentive scheme to park as many bonds in these accounting category as you can, as you earn coupons over time and don't face P&L volatility. The flip side is when you need liquidity, banks can only sell a small portion of the HTM bonds before being tainted as non-compliant from regulators. The large extent of HTM hidden losses is worrying some. To me, there is a more important story going on. Liquidity and funding are becoming tougher for small banks. QT is reducing the balance sheet of the Fed. On the asset side, QT shrinks the amount of bonds the Fed owns. On the liability side, it could be RRP or TGA or reserves. I don't fucking... Okay, now it's confusing me. Banks kind of sound like legalized loan sharks that people trust to hold their money. Is that about right? Yeah, I mean, it is. A lot of what you consider to be legal and good and illegal and bad is just about what the government or regulatory agencies have decided is legal and good. They like to pretend so hard this shit is not fraudulent and scientific when it's just not. Yeah, I mean, that is another component of this. Like, a lot of the this is like a self-sustaining industry. You know what I mean? It's complicated because it creates more mediators, it creates more middle people, it creates more middle managers. It creates a process where you can continue cycling the money, and every time you cycle upwards, there are more people that can create additional profits, generate additional profits for themselves. Ultimately, I don't think that commercial retail banks should hold on to your money and then use that money and invest that money. But unfortunately, we do not live in that world. Shouts out to Bill Clinton. Shouts out to everyone else, really, but certainly Bill Clinton as well. That allowed that to happen. It didn't used to. There was a point where your retail bank was not allowed to fucking invest your money, but that point does not exist anymore. We completely have normalized that. We feel like it's a thing that can happen. Ultimately, though, what would be better is if they had... Please read. This might be an unpopular opinion in this community, but I think most American economists are right in this scenario. I think the Fed should step in and provide relief to the banks to help the stockholders. I mean, that's not an unpopular perspective in this community because, I also believe that banks, not the stockholders, but the banks should help the deposit people who fucking deposited their money. I said that already. That is the entire point of the FDIC. It has to happen. Otherwise, you'll have, if people lose confidence in the banking system, then there will be more bank runs. And we know what happens when there are more bank runs. What is this?
Stop! Okay. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. The year is 2019, and I live like a king.
Hey, SVB. Looking good, Randall.
Investors love me.
Good.
Perfect.
Hey, I just got $50 million in funding. Could I deposit in your bank?
And companies are getting more funding than ever.
What's your startup do? It's an app where you rate how hot people's daughters are without them asking. I went to Berkeley. Put it in. Oh, we're making some cash. Hey, let's put $80 million in mortgage-backed securities.
Oh, that sounds a little 2008, don't you think?
Nah, interest rates are down. We'll get a return of 1.5%. I like our odds.
I really don't.
Thank you.
Yep, life was pretty great as the 20th largest bank in the U.S., and nothing was going to ruin that.
Surprise! It's 2022, and you would not believe the price of eggs out there. 1 second. Okay, people did not like daughter rank. Could we have some money, please? Hey, let's sell some securities. Hey, what are you doing?
Sir, almost none of our deposits are insured.
If I tell you, you can't freak out. Okay. We are having a tiny liquidity crisis. A what? So we're just going to do a little bit of capital raising. A liquidity crisis? No, a crisis. No, it's not bad.
My stock is down today. Why could that be?
That money was for payroll, mother. Okay, I won't raise any capital. Because we're exploring a sale.
And I mean, that never came. It just did not happen.
Come on.
The Jim Cramer tweet at the end is funny. Okay, listen. This is the one weekend where I was not around because I was doing, you know, the streamer awards and shit like that. So I didn't pay too close attention to this. Like on Friday, I kind of looked into it a little bit. I read up on it a little bit, but like it's very obvious that it's always the same fucking issues. Yeah. This is why there were no bank failures in the 1920s era of Jim Crow. Yeah. People that are blaming like woke diverse boards or whatever the fuck is really stupid. Fuck those people. Obviously they're insane. You know what I mean? They're out of their fucking minds. It is just deregulation, and that's just the way to like. It's just, yeah, exactly. Wall Street Journal is one of those people, but before we get to, you know, Wall Street Journal running defense for deregulation while simultaneously saying it's the homosexual Marxists that are causing this to happen. Let's further venture into what happened
latest
here.
reporting is headline: How Silicon Valley Turned on Siliconvalley Bank. So good to have both of you on. You know the way of putting it. This is a bailout, no matter what terminology you want to use.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that?
Well, it's. I mean, clearly there are some that are getting bailed out, right? You know, the depositors of these particular banks are many of which are companies, right? They need to make payroll. The money was trapped in these institutions. And so the government took extraordinary actions to allow them to access that money, right? Even as those banks were going through receivership and had failed. So whether again the taxpayer money was used to implement those plans, the government said no. But clearly there was a rescue of a particular group of people and businesses.
Mm-hmm. So, Rahul, one of the things that they noted that's really important is what the government's doing now, and they're setting up this emergency lending facility. So part of the reason that SVB got into a lot of trouble is that they had to sell these long-term treasuries at a loss. Then they went out to try to capital raise last Wednesday.
That spooked
Try to get $2 billion, and they saw, and depositors, and investors saw the loss.
Georgie 3375, thank you for the 5.
You're selling these at a loss because interest rates have gone up. Your securities aren't as attractive anymore. Yep. What the government's doing now would prevent against someone else having to do a capital raise like that, right?
Right, that's exactly it. Banking is all about confidence, right? Confidence in the system, confidence that if you or I or anyone here at this table puts their money into a bank, if we need it tomorrow, that money will be there. What happened here with SVB was a lack of confidence. And so you started to see all of these depositors rush to get all of their money out. And that's what led to this
Thank
panic.
you, Sakura
So what
Gore,
the Fed is trying
for the
to do,
10.
what regulators are trying to do here is to prevent that from happening again, right? Sort of insulate the risk here, insulate the contagion so that this doesn't spread beyond an SVB story. And that's why you saw officials.
In layman's terms, this is an old-fashioned run on the bank is what
Absolutely,
happened. Absolutely,
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I spoke to a founder who had a lot of her money in this bank last night, and she said that, the tech community is very small. The VC founder community is very small. She said early last week, text messages were starting to go around. It became chatter. And as the days went on, screenshots were going around in terms of, hey, my investor said, pull your money. And so it really did lead to a high-tech problem in terms of tech, but really leading to an old-fashioned bank run.
Yeah, I think Patrick McHenry from North Carolina said it was a Twitter-fueled bank run because these are very online people who were all talking about those messages. This $250 cap, they're basically waiving it with the steps that we're seeing.
Motherfuckers be like, get a real job and work in VC. Yeah, I know. It's awesome. Yeah, get a real job, dude. In venture capital. What do you mean? Get a real job. Those are the real job producers. Thank you for the 5. Get the subs. Your rant earlier. What? Loans getting pardoned by the federal government is not increasing your taxes, but these fucking monsters that are at these fucking multi-billion-dollar news media corporations did not even stutter. They lied to you every fucking day. They did that on NPR. They did that on fucking Fox News. They did that on CNN. And they kept talking about how, wait a minute, who's gonna pay for these fucking student loans to be relieved? Fuck you. Fuck you and suck my fucking cock. Oh, it's not a bailout. We must talk about the semantics of this situation when it's the banks that are getting bailed out or not getting bailed out, when it's the depositors that are getting bailed out. It's fucking bullshit. I should react to this guy sometimes. Yeah, I think he does have he has some good takes on it. The way Congress was informed was shady as fuck.
And I just wanted to bring you up to speed on everything that's happened tonight. because you're probably seeing a lot of headlines right now. Earlier tonight, there was an emergency Zoom call with several hundred members of Congress. It was convened by the Treasury Department, and we were given about 15 minutes notice. It was literally on regular Zoom. I clicked the link, and most of Congress was there. That's not normal, but neither is the situation. The purpose of the meeting was to announce extraordinary steps that will now be taken to secure our financial system. You're going to hear from the president today, along with leaders of both parties, but here's what's happening. 3 days ago, we had the second largest bank failure in American history. It happened because there was a bank in California called Siliconvalley Bank. It lost a lot of money, causing a lot of its customers to get scared and try to withdraw their money, and it caused a run on the bank. So the federal government, through the FDIC, stepped in and closed the bank. Here's the problem. Typically, your deposits in a bank are only protected up to $250,000. But the vast majority of customers at this bank had deposits more than that because this bank specialized in startups and small businesses. And the uncertainty about what would happen to customers with more than $250,000 in deposits started to spread to other banks. A New York bank failed last night. Others have started flashing red. Basically, people with money at smaller banks were getting scared and transferring their money into bigger banks, and we were in the early stages of a domino effect. Which brings us back to the emergency Zoom call. All the depositors at the Silicon Valley Bank will be made whole. Same with the bank in New York. We're going to pay for that with the fund that banks already pay into, not with taxpayer money. And the people being protected are just the depositors. These are mainly business.
It's just funny because, like, yeah, banks pay into that. How do they generate that cash flow? How do they generate that revenue? Well, they generated that revenue with your money to begin with. There's no part of this where, like, you are not actually getting wages, okay, and then taking those wages and putting in a bank because you have to, because there's no other way. Otherwise, you're going to stuff it under a fucking pillow. You know what I mean? And then having those banks take those wages and then getting 10x loans off of those fucking wages and playing around with your money, only to then take some of that money that the government's like, okay, dude, you're playing around with too much money. Like, we need some kind of assurance. We need some kind of insurance, right? And then they'll take that money and put it into the fucking insurance fund, which is what is going to be paying for the depositors in this circumstance. Now, if this happened at a much larger scale, though, we would be fucked.
Businesses that otherwise would have to close and lay off thousands of people because they chose the wrong bank. We're not protecting the management or the people who own stock in the bank. Right now, every step being taken has one purpose: to make sure this domino effect ends now. We caught it early enough so that taxpayers won't have to pay. We can pass the bill on to the banks, as long as this panic stops here. There's going to be a huge political debate now about bank regulation and how much risk.
Yeah, which is insane because Republicans have already hit the line of like, oh no, this is not deregulation, it's homosexuality. Sick. No, fuck it, YOLO. You know what I mean? Fuck it. Bedlam. Cause bedlam, dude. I think that's what we need to keep doing. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana. Social Security is the Silicon Valley Bank of retirement systems. Oh my God. When I see stuff like this, I want to say things that are so much in violation of the terms of service that it is in violation of the terms of service that was set up by the government, because it would be illegal for me to say the things I want to say right now. It wouldn't just get me banned off of Twitch as a platform. It would get me banned off of public by, the real cancel culture where I go to jail, okay? Holy fuck! Ah! Monstrous shit. Monster. This person is saying things that are like so objectively violent when they say things like this. Specifically things like this. That your grandparents are going to get fucked over. You're going to get fucking fucked over. Holy shit. I'm thinking it. You can't stop me from thinking thoughts. I'll tell you that much.
Social Security is a Silicon Valley Bank of retirement systems. It is going broke. It's just a question of whether we let it bleed to death or whether we do something right now. We need a credible plan. If a politician tells you that he doesn't want to fix social, that there's no problem, they're either too old or too rich to care. Your benefits are going to be cut by 25% if we do nothing when it goes broke in 9 years. Social Security is...
Oh my God. Okay, I'm moving back to this.
We're willing to let them take going forward. Good. Clearly, we have to make some changes. But today is a...
Yeah, good luck. First of all, it's not going to go insolvent. That's bullshit. Okay? But again, what do you think should happen in this situation? Great question. I don't know. Maybe raise the fucking minimum price that you need to, or maximum price that you pay into Social Security. That's one good way to start this process. Because currently it maxes out at like literally just it has a cap that is, what is it, like 175 grand or something? 150 grand? No, it's not 400K. It's even lower than that. Yeah. It's fucking ass cheeks. And I say this as someone who is above that. You know what I mean? Like, raise my fucking taxes! Fuck! How insane is that, dude? That's it. Someone making $10 gorillion a year, someone making $10 million a year, and someone making $127,000 a year is like literally paying the same into Social Security. Are you fucking joking? But let's get to the real problem. Now that we have developed a better understanding of what happened, now that Brandon has given us the assurances, now that we understand a little bit better exactly why this failure happened, deregulation, once again, deregulation pushed for by the very same banks that are now demanding the federal government step in and help them out, which they did. They got that help. Let's talk about what the real issue is. Because the real issue isn't deregulation. That is bullshit. That's bullshit. Why would it be deregulation? Wait, I think maybe I have another video this time from 2019 on this. Wall Street executives making 3x minimum wage. We got your boy. We're at the gates. We're at your door. Thank you. We got your boy. Dude, I used to get artistic with it back in the day. God damn. I had so much more creativity back in the day when I was making videos. Like, literally, just so much more creativity.
Last year, those working on Wall Street made 3 times more in bonuses than everyone in the U.S. making federal minimum wage combined. Meaning, people working on Wall Street made on average $153,700 in bonuses, not their salary, bonuses, while minimum wage workers made $15,080, which is totally great. I mean, after all, it's not like they caused a complete financial meltdown in almost a decade. They deserve that money. Now, of course, thinking that these bonuses would be distributed evenly amongst the 181,300 security industry positions would be silly. I mean, what is this, communism? Jamie Dimon still gets $31 million in bonuses, while a first-year analyst is excited to see $2,000 that they'll, burn on rent or something. But income inequality is so pervasive, so severe in this country that even these average bonuses demonstrate the disparity between the upper crust and minimum wage workers. Perhaps this will help you understand how Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Jeff definitely has a Gundam Bezos have more wealth than half the population of the US. 3 people versus half the population. Now, if you ask very smart Republicans, they'll mention that the stock market's doing well, which means the economy must also be doing well. So can someone please explain to me why the average Wall Street bonus increased 1,000% since 1985, while the federal minimum wage only increased 116%? Because if the federal minimum wage increased at the same rate as Wall Street bonuses, minimum wage workers would currently be making $33 an hour. Meanwhile, we're still fighting for $15 an hour. It almost seems like since the 60s, the only thing that went up is CEO pay. Back in 1965, a CEO made 24 times more than the company's lowest paid worker. In 2009, thanks to tremendous productivity increases, the hardworking CEO now makes 185 times more than the worker. Except productivity and compensation were both rising at a fairly equitable rate until the 70s, but wages took a major dip as productivity increased after that. It almost seems like only our bosses are getting rewarded handsomely now, under the condition that they ensure that we, the workers don't get paid fairly. Oh, also, the claim that the stock market is the economy is incredible because it always fails to mention that 84% of stocks are owned by the top 10% of wealth. So when the market's doing well, the rich get richer, but when the market crashes, everyone suffers. Well, everyone except the rich who get bailouts. So I want to leave you off with this one thought. Always remember that the last time these vultures absolutely up, we put in place pay restrictions under Dodd-Frank that they laughed off, avoided jail time, and then they continue to give bountiful sums to those much deserving of their third yacht while millions of Americans suffered. So next time you wonder why the minimum wage hasn't risen to $15 an hour, remember, concentration of wealth and power is much more important in motivating politicians to act on behalf of your best interest. And unfortunately for a lot of Americans, you don't have any money and therefore you don't have any power. Now this will continue as long as you remain unaware. As wealth concentration and income inequality gets back to the roaring 20s levels, we mustn't ever do anything to examine how the system is set up and instead just continue to cut taxes. Just remember, when you get cancer and you can't pay for the treatment, or when a hurricane obliterates your neighborhood and you can't get the necessary aid, don't you dare take a critical look at the economic system that brought you this mess in the first place and just keep thinking that it's your fault for not working hard enough or not working smart enough.
I do find it very sad, I guess, that I can just carbon copy and copy paste basically the same exact videos that I did in 2018 and 2019 and 2015, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Doesn't fucking matter. I could take that exact same video and basically fucking copy and paste it to now, and I'm saying the same exact shit, and the problems are exactly the same.
Oh my god, vegans are awesome. Oh my god, vegans are the best. Oh my god, vegans